Good morning and welcome to First Unitarian. Please rise in body or spirit and join us singing Woyaya.
My name is the Reverend Verdis, LeVar, and I use he, they pronouns, and I'm the Minister for Growth here at First Unitarian Church of Rochester. And I'm part of a 3-person ministerial team who have left me here all by myself. No, really, I'm not alone at all. We got Pablo, our music director, is here. We have Massey, who is our worship associate. We have Amanda is here, who is our acting religious educating director of religious education. Gave her a long title there. And our glorious choir, who will be debuting a piece for them today. And gosh, I am definitely not alone because you are here. You are here, and we are truly blessed, and we are truly not alone. Here at First Unitarian Church of Rochester, our mission is through spiritual connection in community. We listen deeply to others and ourselves, open to wonder and transformation, and serve together with love and humility. We also acknowledge with respect the Seneca Nation, keepers of the Western Door and part of the Haudenosaunee people, on whose ancestral lands First Unitarian now stands. So if you are newish, we welcome you here. Please stop by the welcome desk so that we can help you connect. And if you are here today because you are going through a hard time or worried about someone else, please connect to our pastoral care team, our pastoral care associate who is in the back during and after our service. And please stay tuned for Connections announcement at the end of the service for ways to connect and share, learn with and from each other. And again, it is such a delight to be with you all this morning. So, as we settle into the sacred time and place, let's take a deep breath, everyone. Because today is also a different type of a celebration. All month of February, we'll be celebrating something called Black History Month. This week, we have Susan B. Anthony's birthday. We have Frederick Douglass's birthday. We have St. Valentine's birthday. No. And all the presidents' birthdays the next week, you know. Reverend Sherry's birthday was last Friday, if you didn't know that. Happy birthday. But Today we're going to venture and explore into some African American history in honor of Black History Month. So settle in, it's going to be a ride. And I invite you to light a chalice wherever you are in your heart. Here in the sanctuary, Amanda will light ours. And as we light our chalice, please join me in the unison words. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and mysteries of this great gift.
Yes, there we go. Hello, I'm Massey, and I use she and her pronouns. And I am a very musical person. I've been singing for most of my life. I've been in so many choirs and a cappella groups and musical theater productions that it's kind of hard to remember a time where music wasn't a huge part of my identity. But I've noticed that when you immerse yourself in music the way I did, there are a lot of these little things that you kind of take for granted. Sometimes I forget that not everyone has a place where they can go to make music. Something as simple to me as singing along with a friend to a song we both know could be kind of an impossibility for some people. The average person, if there even is such a thing as an average person, does not get very many opportunities to connect with other people through making music. Instruments are expensive after all. And this reminds me of a strange spiritual experience I had at the UU Summer Camp Unirondack a very long time ago. Because at summer camp, you are actively encouraged to make music. You sing at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You sing around campfires. You sing on walks. There's a whole lot of singing. And this can be kind of disorienting for kids who aren't used to singing. One time, the entire camp gathered around the campfire to share stories and songs. And there was this encouragement that if you knew a song, you could sing along. And so people would usually play songs that were very meaningful for them, and maybe 4 or 5 people would know that song and sing along as well. But not everyone. There was always a few people who didn't sing. But then there was one person who said, I want to play a song that we can all sing to. A pretty daunting task, because as much as we like to pretend everyone knows the lyrics to American Pie, not everyone knows the lyrics to American Pie, especially not people from my generation. But there is one song that pretty much everyone from my generation knows by heart. So this person played the theme song to the 2007 animated TV show Phineas and Ferb. Do people know that song? Do people know what I'm talking about? Well, for those of you who don't know, this is the Gen Z equivalent to the theme song from Friends. Everyone knows the lyrics. And I encourage you to look it up if you don't know what I'm talking about. It is a very charming song about what to do when you're bored on summer vacation. And to my surprise, every single person in this 60 or 70 member camp sang along. It was a miracle. All these kids I've never seen even sing once were suddenly singing their hearts out to the Phineas and Ferb theme song. I even heard them describe it half-jokingly as a spiritual experience. And yeah, it's a silly song from a silly show, but it was kind of a spiritual experience. For a brief moment, the Phineas and Ferb theme song became almost like a hymn. Because, to be honest, it didn't really matter what song it was. It only mattered that everyone was able to sing it. For one brief, glorious moment, every single person was joined in song. And isn't that why we come to church? Sometimes we need a place where we can all be joined in song, where everyone knows the words, and if you don't, there are handy books and screens that you can use to follow along. A place where every single person can lift up their voice, because it doesn't really matter what we're singing as long as we're singing it together. I now invite you to rise and greet your neighbor and share a song that you enjoy singing with other people.
What's that? Oh. That's so great. For anybody who doesn't recognize it, this is the Phineas and Ferb theme song. Good morning. It's great to see you all. I have a special holder for my story today. So, have you ever tried to learn an instrument? Yeah. No. Didn't have to try. So it's not easy, right? It's not easy to learn an instrument. And sometimes when someone who is very young learns how to play an instrument very well, we call them a prodigy, right? So Nina Simone, whose parents named her Eunice, started playing piano when she was 3 years old. Her feet could not even touch the pedals of the piano. And when she was 6 years old, she started playing in church where her mother was a Methodist preacher. So Nina grew up without a lot of money, but with a lot of love in her family and pride in being African American. Nina was born in Tyrone, North Carolina in 1933. When she was 12 years old, she performed in her first public concert. She was going to play a piece by Bach, who was her favorite classical pianist. Nina Simone loved classical music. It was really her first passion, her first love, and really her dream was to be a classical pianist. So she was nervous, but she was confident. She had practiced, and she knew the audience was going to love her. But most of all, she knew that she had her parents' support. They believed in her. They saw her talent. She was young, gifted, and Black, and they knew it, and so did she. So Nina looked out at the audience, and she saw her mother sitting right there in the first row. Now, at this time in North Carolina, if you were African American, there were certain unfair laws and racist rules you had to follow. There were restaurants where you weren't allowed to eat, stores where you weren't allowed to shop, pools where you weren't allowed to swim. And if you were riding on the bus, you were expected to sit in the back. As Nina looked out at her parents, her heart swelled with pride. Then she saw a white man walk up to her mother, and they spoke for a few minutes, and then her parents stood up and walked to the back of the concert hall. So Nina felt a fire starting to burn inside of her. She was angry, but she was determined that her family was not going to be treated in this way. Now, this was Nina Simone's first memory of racism. She was 12 years old, but she had been raised by a family that worked really hard to protect her from some of the awful things that were happening in the world around her. So at first she didn't understand what was happening, but then she realized this is what it was. And she was angry and determined, and she would not allow her family to be treated in this way. So when Nina's family came backstage to tell her that it was her turn to perform, she walked out on stage and she sat down at the piano and she refused to play. The audience waited patiently, and then they started to look around and whisper to each other what was happening. All the while, Nina sat straight back at the piano with a fierce look on her face. Eventually, Nina's teacher approached her to ask what was wrong, and she explained that she would not play until her parents were allowed to come back to sit in the front row. The teacher looked alarmed, but headed off to find the usher, and eventually, Nina saw her parents come back to sit in the front row. As soon as they were seated, Nina took a deep breath. And then she played. Oh, did she play? And when she was done, she looked out at the stunned audience with a fierce look of pride that her parents returned to her. Throughout her life, Nina continued to play piano and write music and perform for audiences all over the world. She stood shoulder to shoulder with other Black leaders of her time, demanding civil rights and an end to the racist mistreatment of Black people. Nina never forgot what it was like to be young, gifted, and Black. And in 1969, she wrote a song with that title about the exceptional worth and dignity of Black children. May this story of a powerful African-American female leader, artist, activist unfold in your hearts until we meet again.
I have to breathe for a second. Will you all breathe with me? Thank you. Thank you so much for that story. About a year and a half ago, when I was in Vermont, a song that the choir was singing, and it was a challenging piece. So they were like, at that time I wasn't reverend, but I was a ministerial intern, and they were just like, hey, Verdis. They didn't call me reverend. They were like, Verdis, can you help us sing bass or tenor? Which one? We need help on these parts. So I was like, sure. So in singing it, the lyricist who wrote the lyrics came to be James Weldon Johnson. And I had taught about James Weldon Johnson when I taught history and African American studies at Monroe Community College. I was like, I know James Weldon Johnson. He also wrote what is called the Black National Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing. But I never heard about this poem. And this poem takes Lift Every Voice and Sing and brings it even deeper into how African Americans are still with us right now, their resiliency. Because he says, sometimes the mist overhangs my path, and blackening clouds around me cling. But oh, I have a magic way to turn the gloom to a cheerful day. I softly sing. And if the way grows darker still, shadowed by sorrow's somber wings, with glad defiance in my throat, I pierce the darkness with a note and sing, and sing. I brood not over the broken past, nor dread whatever time may bring, because no nights are dark, no days are long, while in my heart there swells a song, and I can sing.
I invite you now to get comfortable in your seats and to join in the spirit of meditation and prayer. Spirits of life and love, and God of many names, we gather today in celebration and song, but now lower our voices in mindfulness and prayer. Each of us enter into this space with songs in our hearts, songs of joy and love, but also songs of heartbreak and righteous anger, some of celebration and peace, and some of sorrow and longing, some quiet and some deafening. In this month of celebration, songs, and stories, we also hold in our hearts the horrors of white supremacy and racism, and the hard work ahead of us in confronting and dismantling it. We also hear the people of California who face the full disastrous reality of climate change with every change in the seasons. But mostly, we hear the deafening silence of those in power who refuse to lift up their voices with us. We come here to return our weary hearts to community. May we sing, regardless of what the song in our hearts may be. And may we carry a new song in our hearts, a song of warmth, ritual, and beloved community as we journey through this world together. Amen. We enter now into ritual to bring what is on our hearts and lay it on the altar of community and spirit. Honoring the complexities of life, bring to mind whatever grief, growth, or gratitude is alive within you. Online, you are invited to share in the chat, and here in the sanctuary, you are invited forward to light a candle. If you would like an usher to bring a candle to you, please raise your hand. May we now share in this ritual of community care and witness to one another's hearts. All that we hold in our hearts for ourselves, for each other, and for the world is held in this community and by a love that will not let us go. Amen. Everything that our church does for ourselves and others is made possible by what we bring to it. Each week we practice shared generosity to support the work and witness of Unitarian Universalism in Rochester, and half of our Sunday offering goes to a partner organization working to create a more just and loving world. Today we share our plate with the Rochester Beacon, an independent, nonprofit digital newspaper that aims to build a stronger Rochester through informed public action. The Beacon is a forum for perspectives that are rooted in intellectual openness, nuance, and inclusion. In the spirit of abundance and generosity, our offering will now be received with gratitude.
Thank you, Pablo, for the meditation on Lift Every Voice and Sing. The sermon is entitled Lift Every Voice. And so this was a hymn that was written by James Weldon Johnson, who wrote the poem to the piece that I had recited early on, and that became the lyrics for Reginald Wright, who is a contemporary of our time, composer, who set that poem to beautiful music as the choir sang, I Cried. It was absolutely beautiful. But the lyrics were composed by James Weldon Johnson, and he was a principal at a school in Jacksonville, Florida, and a choir of about 500 school children at the then segregated Stanton School, where he was principal, first performed the song that was set to music by his brother, Rosamond Johnson, the Johnson brothers. And it was to celebrate the birthday of Abraham Lincoln. There's a reason why Black History Month is February. It's not because it's the shortest month and we want to shortchange African Americans, but there's something to that. But this year, I think it's 29 days, so it's extended another. But Abraham Lincoln's birthday is in February. Frederick Douglass's birthday is in February. Susan B. Anthony's birthday is in February. So the week between Abraham Lincoln, or President's Day, and Frederick Douglass was designated as Negro History Week. It has since been expanded. But Lift Every Voice and Sing came from out of those celebrations of the past, but not dwelling in the past, but acknowledging and remembering the past, but looking forward and recognizing what has brought us through. So, at the turn of the 20th century, there was a lot going on. Jim Crow was now official and legal, that segregated, that gave all those laws to make people different by their race and color, what is visible, legal. Lift Every Voice and Sing came out of not saying everything is great now, but look at the past and let that past and the glorious resilience of that past, let it rise us up. So lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Then let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. I had to memorize this when I was a kid. I was here in Rochester, and I was attending a church on Goodman Street. Goodman, you know where the puppet market is? Around that area was when my church. The church still stands to this very day. And every summer, we had to do something called Vacation Bible School. And Vacation Bible School is where we learned Lift Every Voice and Sing. Now, this was past beyond segregation, but it was an all-black church. There were no white people or no white children at Vacation Bible School, but we learned Lift Every Voice and Sing from an early age every year to the point where we can sing it without seeing the words. We were taught it by rote. We never seen it on paper. So it didn't really mean that much to me until I started to understand my own history. And then it began to mean something, especially when it says, sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. And then facing the rising sun of a new day be gone, this is looking forward and saying, it's not here yet, but I have so much hope. Let us march on till victory is won. So when he wrote this, victory wasn't won yet. Why do we continue to sing it? Yes, we've had some victories, but victory still has not been won. Y'all, quiet on me this morning? Come on. This is not the first time I preached here on this. Come on, y'all. Thank you. Now you're with me. But 3 years, though. 3 years, y'all going to be saying amen by the end. Y'all don't have to. You don't have to. But, and the reason why I say that, because I'm going to be going a little vulnerable here. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my family history. Some of the history that even my family doesn't even know, because it's really traumatic. So, take care of your heart. Take care of yourselves. But trust me, we will not end in the valley of shadow of death. All right? So don't fear that evil. All right. So 3 years ago, I was in seminary, and I took a preaching class. It was called Preach as If You Mean It. That is an actual class. Preach as if you mean it. And so that's what we try to do every Sunday, you know. And we had an assignment that got to the heart of our personal spirituality. And it was to identify and reflect on our sources of hope. So what are your sources of hope? Think about, what are your sources of hope? What do you go to when you need some hope? Where do you go? Well, for me, being an historian and a genealogist, I started researching in Russ Reed's library when I was a junior in high school. And my thoughts went to my ancestors, the ones that I know of. Not the nebulous group of people that we will never know, but the ones that came before me. We honor them and respect them. But the ones I do know, the stories I discovered, and they became my sources of hope. When I'm sad, when I'm alone, when I think I'm alone, when I'm content, and when I feel too tired to go on. Yeah, I know, I look young. But sometimes I feel too tired to go on sometimes. So what do I draw on? I draw on my line of ancestors, particularly my mother's side, come from rural Georgia, southwest Georgia. Has anyone ever been to southwest Georgia or like eastern Alabama? Have you ever seen that red clay that's on the ground? I mean, it's actually red clay. And you don't want to get trapped in it during a rainstorm or anything, because you can't get it off of you. It's just, I mean, so there's a lot of minerals and there's a lot of iron in there. And I used to go to my grandmother's farm, about 325 acres of mostly red clay. I'll say that again, 325 acres of red clay. Wait, 325 acres? How did you get 300? I'm getting to that. But I used to go to her farm when I was a kid. We used to go on a bus, believe it or not, from Rochester to Georgia. It took, I don't know, a couple of days. And I used to, I remember her voice. She's no longer with us, but she died at the age of 98. And I remember her singing, and she used to tell stories of our ancestors. And I remember every one of them. And throughout these stories, there was a common thread. There's a reason why I sing a lot. Not because, oh, you have a good voice. No. It has nothing to do with that. Even if I couldn't sing like angels, I would still sing because that's what they did. My ancestors did. They really, really did. They utilized the power of their voice and song to connect to the divine, to connect to a higher power, to connect to the power within them to survive, to hold on, to go on. And that's why the gift to sing that choral piece and that poem means so much to me. The poem written 100 years ago speaks to me now as I need more hope now than ever before. I need to hope that things will get better. I need to hope that our rights will not continue to be taken from us. And I hope that we can really, really, really build a beloved community. I have to hope, and I have to sing like my ancestors did. So sometimes the mist overhangs my path, and blackening clouds around me cling. When I hear that stanza, I think about my great-great-grandfather. His name was Reuben. And Reuben was born enslaved. He was born on a slave plantation called the Walls Plantation. And when he was a little boy, around 9 years old, he was out in the fields with the rest of the boys, and they were summoned to the middle of the slave quarters. And so it was a normal day. And so he came to the front. He was a little short like me, so he had to come to the very front to see what was going on. But when he got there, he saw his mother tied to the whipping post. And without any explanation or any word, they proceeded to whip her, and whip her, and whip her, until my grandmother told me the blood ran down her back, and she died in front of her kids. When my grandmother told me that, I wrote it down, and I still have it when I wrote it down. It was about 25 or 30 years ago when she first told me that story. She had never told that story before, but she told it to me because I asked. And so I can imagine Reuben Walls, who is now an orphan, didn't know who his father was, someone on the plantation maybe. And I can just hear him singing that hymn, "Sometimes I Feel Like a Motherless Child." Have you heard that before? Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child, a long way from home, a long way from home. There's a reason why these spirituals were sung. It comforted. It made you feel that you weren't alone and that you can articulate what you felt. And sometimes there's just no words for it. So he grew up on the slave master's home because he was orphan and he was a good worker until he met Alcester Moat. She was also born enslaved, and they were neighbors. And they got married and they started a family near a creek with a mill. And they had about 5 or 6 kids at the time, and things seemed to be going well until disease broke out. And they lost 5 of their children. So, the stanza that says, "And if the way grows darker still, and if the way grows darker still, shadowed by sorrow's somber wings, shadowed by sorrow's somber wings," that sorrow of losing children almost back to back within a couple of years. We don't know their names. They weren't even got a chance to be recorded in the census records, but their loss definitely was recorded. They needed to find a place to raise their family safely, and so the old slave master, who was leaving the world and had no heirs, sold the land to my great-great-grandparents, Reuben and Alcester, for a low price. 325 acres. So, they raised the family on this land. Alcester was known for her singing, and one day they were walking home from church, and she was singing so loudly. Oh yeah, she was the mother of the church. It was called Red Hill Church. And when they were going from Red Hill Church, with glad defiance in my throat, I pierced the darkness with a note and sing and sing. And I can imagine her singing loudly on that red clay road. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. I'll sing for you a little bit because time is running out. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. The time is drawing nigh. Children, don't get weary. I can hear her sing this. Children, don't get weary. Because of all that she had suffered, but she still could sing. Children, don't get weary. The time is drawing nigh. And my grandmother said that, we were wondering why she was singing so loudly and carrying on so. Well, she died the next day. Did she know? Probably. Well, Reuben lived well into his 80s, about 30 years past her. But the white neighbors were envious of that 325 acres. And being in his 80s, they tricked him to giving most of it. Some things change, some things stay the same, don't they? So, when he died, most of the land was gone in the hands of tricksters and not his heirs. Well, one of his heirs, named Dal Walls, my great-grandfather, wanted that land back in the family and struggled hard to get it. And he focused on the future generations. He was focusing on me. That third stanza in The Gift to Sing says, I brood not over the broken past, nor dread whatever time may bring. He got most of that land back, y'all. Through the help of a white neighbor who we still don't know her name. We know that it was a her. And I'm still trying to figure out who that was. With much gratitude, my mother was raised on that land. But she didn't like Dal Wall. She remembered him because he scared her a little bit. He was often seen walking through the fields of that 325 acres that they got back, singing to himself, talking to himself. That was a little scary, right? Because he was talking to himself and singing to himself, right? No, he was singing to the divine. He was singing to the ancestors that were buried on that land, sometimes in unmarked graves, buried in history, forgotten, but we cannot, because he understood the last line of that poem. No nights are dark, no days are long, while in my heart there swells a song. I can sing, and that's what he did, and that's why we all can sing. This is one of the aspects of African American culture that led to resilience, just one of the aspects. There are many more. But you can sing. We can sing when we are sad and alone. We can sing till the power of love comes in. We can, when we feel discouraged, we can sing till the power of hope comes in. When we are tired, we can sing till the power of peace comes in. So let us sing till the power of love comes in. Even if you cannot sing like angels, sing anyhow. And I hope that now the anthem of lift up your voice and sing, because we're about to sing it, is very controversial right now because now it's in the, there's a game tonight, a small little game or something like that. A little dry, excuse me. And recently, with the national anthem, they are singing the Black national anthem. And it's always in February, right? So why not recognize that? It's very controversial because we're trying to walk back everything, and also, this song should not exist. There was no reason for this song to exist, of lift every voice and sing, and especially stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod. There was no stones, there was no rods. Nah, right? But we have overcome through the tears that have been watered. We have overcome treading the blood of the slaughter. There was no slaughter. We need to hear this. We need to sing it, but with acknowledgement, reverence, and respect. And if you can't sing it with that, don't sing it at all. And if you can't hear it with that, go someplace else, because we're going to sing anyway. So rise in body or in spirit, and we're going to sing all 3 verses. Lift Be seated. We have some connections announcements for you. Immediately after this, at 10:30, there's coffee and refreshments and places for you to connect and talk and reflect on the service, as well as in the Susan B. Anthony Lounge, there will be a brunch sponsored by the UU School Partnership. So that's in the Susan B. Anthony Lounge. Yoga for the season in the Williams Gallery. There'll be a Jubilee singing workshop led by me and the Gilbert Hall. If you want to sing some more spirituals and things like that, come join me in Gilbert Hall. Buddhist Fellowship will be meeting in the Thorough Room. Parenting Matters in room 210. And there'll be the kindergarten through first grade OWL meeting in the chapel. Also, for there's a service auction that will take place on May the 4th. So make sure you see Chris in the back. Sign up. It's a QR code. It's all technologically fabulous. And sign up. I know I'm going to be offering some of my services, so I encourage you to do so as well. And all proceeds go to the general fund. Keep this church doors open. All right. As we extinguish our chalice, if Amanda can extinguish our chalice, we say our words together. We extinguish this chalice flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. May love be with you until we are together again. Please go in joy, go in love, and go in love and hope. Our set love. Amen. Blessed be.